This is your place for all things Grand Rapids Griffins and all things Toledo Walleye. This is the Hockeytown West podcast with your host, Brandon Cook, Nick Harrington, and Travis Foch.
So, what happened last week? Because I literally was so sick. I just kind of passed out.
Yeah, you picked the wrong week to be sick there, bud.
It seems like it was a good week to be sick.
Sure. There's a lot that happened and not a lot that happened all at the same time. And we're going to talk about that all on the Hockeytown West podcast today. I'm one of your hosts, Brandon.
And I'm Nick.
And Travis is not with us tonight. He is under the weather. And I think we had him party too hard in Toledo over the weekend here. It was great seeing him again. I had a freaking great time with him. But yeah, man, a lot's going on. And if you're tuning into this podcast for the first time, wondering what it is a Grand Rapids Griffins and Toledo Walleye focus podcast. We focus on the farm system of the Detroit Red Wings. But obviously last week, there was a lot that happened with the Detroit Red Wings that we have to kind of talk about because it impacted the Grand Rapids Griffins. So the first thing we'll dive into, because we're like a week behind in episodes here. This episode's 2 days later than a normal scheduled episode would go. Some of the stuff's already old news. We'll try not to bore you with it too much here. But we got to talk about the first thing because it was super exciting for Griffins fans and the organization. It was Carter Mazur getting the call up to the Detroit Red Wings. Finally, something that we all kind of agree, if he wasn't injured for half the season, it probably would have happened a lot sooner.
Oh, yeah, for sure. He's been on a hot streak down here. So, I mean, it was a good time to call him up, give the team a little bit of an edge, which is how he plays, and hopefully a little bit of depth scoring.
Yeah, that's really what we were hoping for. And everything leading up to it was awesome. You see his family in Detroit passing out shots at the bar. He had like 300 people there to see him. So cool to see how many people support this kid, and just shows you how good of a kid he is. The Red Wings kept showing the whole, when he was 10 years old, I dreamed to play for the Detroit Red Wings. And of course, the give money to the poor and hospitals, which love that. That just tells you all you need to know about Carter Mazur as a person, honestly. And then everything on that hype train was short-lived because 2 shifts in, he was injured. And we don't know what the timetable is for his return, but that's not how you kind of draw up your NHL debut.
No, and we should go back a little bit. I don't know if I'm going to say it anyways, but the game was what, Thursday or Wednesday?
Days don't make sense anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I was sick, so everything was kind of a blur, but we got a message the day before that he was going to be called up. And we're like, well, that's interesting. We don't see anything from the team. We don't see anything on the organization. So that's odd. And we're just like, we'll keep this here. And everybody was saying that, hey, he's going to be up. He's like, the news broke because his father had posted it up on Facebook. And then you see that he wasn't in the game when they played the Moose. So you knew he was kind of on a plane ride to Detroit to start, and I was excited to watch him. I saw the first shift, played pretty safe, and then I passed out, and I woke up to 200 text messages about him being, injured in the game, and I felt terrible because I know how bad, not bad, but I know how much he's struggled this season of just trying to stay healthy and trying to get his game back together, not together, but to get back on a consistent routine and being with the team. And for him to go out in a second shift, and I think the post was a dislocated elbow.
I think so. I tread lightly around talking about it because it was pulled from a private Facebook post. So I get it. Everyone's excited, and that stuff's going to come out. But at the same time, I'm like, I'm not going to talk about it because we know in the AHL, injury-wise, they don't tell you nothing.
Yeah.
It's upper body, it's lower body, and that's about all you get. So when the specifics came out, I was like, oh, someone's going to be pissed about that. But at the same time, it does suck. It killed the vibe of the whole game because the hype around everything was him playing there. And for us, it's always exciting to watch these players that we've watched develop in Grand Rapids get that shot, and especially a kid who's earned it like him. And then to have it end like that, you're like, oh. But the nice thing is he'll get another shot at that debut game another time for sure. He'll be back. And he always comes back stronger from injuries, whether it seems like it or not, because he gets re-injured again sometimes. But, he's always come back stronger in his play. You look at the first injury when he came back, it took him a while to get going. Then he got going and rolling, gets injured again, comes back in right away almost. He's had 4 or 5 games, maybe to hit for his playing style, but he was producing right away. So
Oh yeah.
he'll come back and play well. Oh yeah, we did. We'll talk about all that later. But
Can we not?
I don't know.
Oh boy.
But outside of the Carter Mazer stuff, there was another thing that was announced that was pretty cool for the Grand Rapids area. And if you've been a fan of the Griffins for a long time, you remember that the Red Wings red and white game, the last day of training camp, was always in Grand Rapids at Van Andel. And it was always a cool experience. It was always included for season ticket holders. They're bringing it back next year. It'll be in Grand Rapids. I'm super excited about it because I don't have to drive 2.5 hours north to see it. And it's just really cool to open it up to that many more fans. I mean, that game sells out in Traverse City all the time, but it's like 1,500, maybe 2,000 people. I don't even know how many people they could fit in that tiny arena up there. So the fact that you can open it up to that many people, you will see a fairly large crowd at that game in Grand Rapids. So when they release your tickets, don't waste your time. Just pick them up. They're usually not crazy expensive either, but it's an opportunity for us here in GR to see our guys play with the Wings players, and you get to see them on our home ice, and it's a really cool thing.
Yeah, and they actually included it back for season ticket holders for next year. So I don't know if you had seen that, but exciting. I kind of jumped the gun when that news got announced, and I assumed that Traverse City is not going to be a thing, but you saw that there was another auction item for an experience to go Traverse City and for training camp. So
that auction the Wings are doing, there was a Traverse City training camp experience in there. So something is still going on up there. But if you're just looking to see the red and white game and not the training camp experience, you just get to see it in Grand Rapids, which is fine by me.
It'll be crazy too, because I mean we'll talk about some of the playoff guys that are going to join us, and I think it's going to bring a big crowd, and hopefully it helps kind of some of that money goes towards like some updates for Van Andel.
We do like money and updates to Van Andel. I mean, they've done a great job over the past few years here. Obviously, the Jumbotron was the biggest thing, but the sound system would be my next gripe, honestly. You go to Toledo, I know it's newer and it's tinier, but you feel the speakers there. I'd like that experience in Grand Rapids, honestly, but we'll see. Moving on from that, though, let's talk trade deadline. I know everybody's probably heard from a million other shows about the trade deadline. Obviously, Detroit only made one trade, and Joe Veleno goes to Chicago. We get Craig Smith, Peter Mrazek back. Nothing that impacts Grand Rapids, kind of like we had talked about last episode, hoping that maybe we'd see a AHL veteran addition there, but it didn't really help GR in the same time. But there's nothing really much more to add to that trade. I feel like it was the right move for the Red Wings at the time, and let's be honest, adding Mrazek back adds Kosa insurance. That tells you if they don't think he's ready to start in the beginning of the season next year in Detroit, they have an option.
Yeah, it's I was really hoping. It's funny because I text you guys, I text the group, and I was like, looks like we're gonna get either nothing today or an AHL trade, and then 2 minutes later the trade breaks, and I'm like, spoke too soon.
Yep, your fault.
Yeah, and I don't know much about Craig Smith. I saw his points were a little bit better than Joe Veleno's. I feel like Joe Veleno's been kind of on the outside for the last 2 seasons. So I mean, with under Newsy, fourth line wasn't really producing, and then Todd gets here and he put him on the first line and he wasn't producing for that short stint before they put Marco on there. So the goalie insurance is kind of odd to me. I feel is another year with Peter Mrazek, so you got 3 goalies again. I know Lions contract is up at the beginning or at the end of this season, so you got your 2, and then if Kosa's ready, he's up there. It's
weird.
It's weird, and goalies will change again 4 more times before the start of the season, right? I mean,
probably knowing this organization. Yeah. It's that meme that somebody always shares. I wish I knew exactly who it was on Twitter, but it's like the Captain Crunch cereal box, and it's just oops all goalies instead of oops all berries. Yeah, that's kind of what we do around here. But the Kosa insurance kind of makes sense, right? Like it does take off that pressure of you need to be ready to, if you're not, it's okay. They would prefer him probably to be ready. I was like, is Peter Mrazek coming back to Grand Rapids? Which, I mean, if you're familiar with Peter Mrazek in Grand Rapids, he did fantastic things down here and everybody loved him here. So it's not like people would have complained, but at the same time, it's insurance. That's really all it is at the end of the day. And that's all the trades they made. And like Steve said, he's not going to go buy rentals if he's not confident the team can go win a cup. It's not buy rentals to get into the playoffs. As much as fans want to get into the playoffs, you don't get rid of your futures for rentals to just get in the dance. That's not how it works. And I'm happy he goes that way about it. I know it pisses off a lot of people, but I'd rather that approach than the old Ken Holland end of his era approach where you're signing these veterans that you're stuck with for 5 years and you're like, oh my God, what did we just do? So I'm okay with it.
Yeah, I want to add two things real quick. So one thing with it is that it's okay if Costa's not set and ready because like you see Wallstedt is still in the Iowa organization. He's still playing in the AHL. Askarov wanted out of Milwaukee because he didn't want to play in the AHL again. And most of his games this year are in the San Jose Barracuda organization. It's not in San Jose Sharks. So it's okay if he's here for one more year. And I don't think we're going to gripe about seeing Coast for another year.
Oh, we won't complain.
Yeah,
but...
I mean, this team has been weird this season as well. So his stats aren't great since coming back from Detroit. So maybe they were able to kind of give him an idea of what to work on. And, he's working on that end. The Holland thing, I mean, trading picks and things like that. I mean, I posted yesterday. People are ticked because there weren't any moves. It's like we need to fire Steve. There's no picks. There's no trades. As he's been sitting. I'm like, it's been too long without a Stanley Cup. Chicago hasn't won a Stanley Cup in 10 years either.
There's teams that have never won one. Like
10 years.
Relax.
Like
now,
Steve's only year 6 into this.
I did see a lot of that, but what that also brought out was the actual like common sense fans. Like Twitter, you get stuck in an echo chamber sometimes of like, oh my God, this guy's falling. And there was some of the fire Yzerman and da. But then all of a sudden I started seeing a lot more of the you're crazy and the common sense started to finally flow. And I'm like, okay, the entire fan base isn't lost. Thank God. And people do understand what they're trying to build. And you got to remember how many contracts on this team are up at the end of this year. The guy like these plug-in players that won't be back, and it's going to look very different every year for the next few years, and that's okay.
Yeah, I think it's just a lot of the casual football players, like football fans coming over and like then jumping on the wings at this point in time, which is fine. Those people probably don't listen to us, Brandon, so...
It's also true, but it's also, you got to think too, a lot of people jumped on that Red Wings bandwagon during that hot streak when Todd first got here. And like, that wasn't sustainable. We all said it wasn't sustainable. It would have been awesome if it was, but we knew it wasn't. So back to reality, unfortunately. And here we are. So we'll take what we have and hope that Grand Rapids can at least turn it around here a little bit and guarantee us a good spot and a deep run in the playoffs. Which, speaking of that, with the trade deadline, there is the rule that any AHL player you want assigned to be able to go up and down for the remainder of the season, including playoffs, had to be assigned, at least on paper, to their AHL team by 3 o'clock Friday. So you know what I was doing on 3 o'clock Friday? Refreshing AHL transactions, just going...
Oh, I thought you were drinking.
No. Refreshing the AHL transactions, and... I only saw one move happen, which was Elmer was reassigned and then recalled on paper there at least. And in my head, I went, where's William Lagesson? I know you went, where's Marco Kasper?
Don't even start with me on this because I said he was not coming down here. You guys both bullied me into saying, okay, maybe.
But you expected at least... Elmer, Lagesson, and then you would expect, depending on the severity of the injury, you'd expect Carter Mazur to be moved there as well. And he was not. So it kind of left us scratching our heads going, is this wrong? I checked our sources, and no, it is correct still to this moment that Elmer was the only current Red Wing reassigned that can move freely between the two teams. And that was frustrating.
Can Carter just not move because he's on IR with the NHL?
So that I haven't gotten a full update. I hope to be able to speak to someone at the Griffins game tomorrow to get a further update on that to understand it, because there was a lot going on and I felt bad for the person I was texting to try to get responses from and understanding, because there was a lot happening. Yeah. Because again, we all expected those moves to happen. The Lagesson one just kind of shocks me. He gets called up. He hasn't played at all. And he's still sitting there. You're like, okay, come on. Like, he would be a very valuable piece to this Griffins team in the playoffs. That's a lot of veteran experience there on the blue line. So it was frustrating. I won't lie.
I'm wondering if there's something more to that than him just not playing. I'm wondering if there's he's away from the team. I'm wondering if he's even with the team.
He was at the Stadium Series. I know that for a fact. He was on the ice at their practice and the family skate and all that stuff. So He's still around the team, as far as I know. I've seen him in practice notes too, that, you know, he's the extra guy, extra D man out there and everything like that. So he's still practicing. He just hasn't played in a game. So again, I don't understand the thought process behind not making that move unless there was roster constraints that prevented them from making that move. Like, cause I know even doing that quick paper move, your roster still has to be at a certain level. So I don't know. It's frustrating. I would have liked to see him back here. I needed another MMA fight in my life on the ice, you know. But yeah, that's all you're getting is reinforcements from the Red Wings specifically is Elmer Soderblom. If the Red Wings miss the playoffs and the Griffins make it, that's all you're getting back.
From Detroit.
Yeah. There's obviously other pieces that will end up in Grand Rapids at some point here, hopefully soon. We can't confirm because we don't know the official answer on any of them, but the names that you obviously think of are ASP, MBN, Emmett Finney, and you can almost guarantee Emmett Finney when Kamloops season is done, he's here. He got sent here last year. And who else opens that door potentially? I don't know, but you'd like to at least see those three when you look at how the rest of the division was kind of stacked. Rockford sent quite a few guys down. Milwaukee sent quite a few guys down. Texas didn't send that much. But you just kind of hope and pray that those reinforcements are at least coming.
Well, there was one other person that got moved. It was a goalie.
Oh, you're right. My bad. I did forget about that. They did assign Carter Gylander from Toledo to Grand Rapids, then reassign it back to Toledo. So your emergency goalie in the playoffs, God forbid something happens to Jack or Kosa, is Carter Gylander, which is a great option to have in your back pocket. Toledo fans might murder us if we take him, but you know, always the possibilities there, and it's always at least good to have that insurance, right? So you're not just signing a random goalie in the playoffs. Like, that's good to have that insurance.
Good workout. Rather not try.
I just assumed like Gage Alexander would probably get assigned too, but you know, he's just still floating in Never Never Land right now, honestly.
No,
if you
he's
followed transactions. If you followed transactions this last week, he's been assigned to Grand Rapids. He's been assigned to Toledo. He was in Reading. Like, he's been kind of all over the place. Hopefully by the time we record a Toledo show this week, we'll have an update on that. But that's it for the transactions and what that roster would kind of look like there. Besides the fact that the Griffins actually broke the news today, they traded away future considerations. Never got to step foot on the ice, and he's gone again.
Short term.
But we did get a defenseman, which kind of is like that Lagesson replacement, I would assume. I think that's the right way to look at this. But we ended up getting a defenseman from the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins, Nikolai Kuzdanov.
I thought you were going to make me try to say it, so I'm glad you attempted.
I tried. I normally do make you try to say it first, but
they did break down the pronunciation on Twitter.
You got me? What do you got?
No, I don't got you. I was just letting people know. The admin did tweet out the correct pronunciation. So,
I saw his nickname is Kinzer. We'll go with that.
Easy.
Yep. Or Nikolai. Either way, it's easier to say. But so we acquire a defenseman from the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins, right? Great. Left shot defenseman, 6'3", Not a ton of points. Spent some time in the ECHL this year. Spent a few games with the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins. And when I looked at just the stat sheet, I was like, okay, this is interesting. And then I looked at the comments on Wilkes-Barre's post on the trade, and fans were pissed. And I was like, oh, okay, maybe we found something here. And, apparently that organization's had guys moving up and down the blue line all season long. And then I looked at the most recent games for this guy. 4 points in 2 games and a +9 combined over those 2 games. I'm like, okay, there's something here. So you kind of look at this as just a guy that it's insurance. He can slot in on the nights that you want to take Torrey Dell out of the lineup and put another guy in. You could put him in over Vero. It just gives you more defensive insurance. And that's the only acquisition so far. There is still the potential for the Grand Rapids Griffins to sign college players that season is done or wrapping up. You saw that last year with Hunter Johannes joining the team. And I could anticipate seeing another move like that before the next couple weeks are over, which I'm not opposed to. Hunter came in and he was great right off the rip for us. And he's still here. Obviously, the organization likes him. So it's not a bad thing to see those signings too. You see it more commonly in the ECHL. Toledo's made some signings and we'll probably see more. It's very common for college guys to start getting loaded into ECHL rosters, not as common in the AHL. But it's always nice to have insurance pieces there that can be added. And who knows? You never know what you're going to get with those guys. They could come in and blow the doors down and you just found an undrafted free agent prospect that turns out working well. Maybe not in the NHL, but at least in the AHL, and you can't be mad at that.
Yeah, I mean, we got Seeger out of college.
And Bantle.
So you never know what's going to happen and where these guys are going to come from. I was looking at this defenseman today too. He played a lot of games actually with San Jose Sharks. So like almost over 60 games in a couple seasons. So I mean, good experience. I'm wondering if this is going to be more of like a Redeem Shimmick kind of move for us. Because on that trade deadline too, I was hoping that we were going to get somebody to kind of move a kid up and have a veteran replace, but that we didn't see that, kind of like last year with Simon and Redeem. But yeah, these college, I don't know who's out there. I don't know.
Yeah, that's way out of my area of expertise there.
I did ask for my sources to see like who's available or who we should look at, and like there was a name and I can't remember who it was. Terrible. But yeah, I mean, I was hoping like even Red Savage was going to be coming this season, but he's out with injury, and so he won't be making his Grand Rapids debut this season.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. I feel so bad for him.
But I think too with Carter coming up, I think that kind of shuts the door on Trey coming here for the playoffs.
I don't think it shuts the door on anything, but at the same time, he's a sophomore. We don't know if he's going to go back to MSU next year. There's a whole, that could go into a whole different type of conversation there.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the roster is kind of fluid right now, and you might see some more acquisitions. You might see more changes. The AHL trade deadline hasn't happened yet, actually. It is separate from the NHL trade deadline. The AHL trade deadline is actually Friday, March 14th at 3 p.m. So you could still see moves. Who knows? I'm not going to assume anything. I'm kind of happy with the squad we have. They just got to figure some things out. But at the same time, you never know what's going to happen. So outside of that, no other crazy deadline news updates or anything like that. Everything kind of settles there. I was going to say we could talk about what this Griffins roster would look like in the playoffs, but we kind of already painted the picture. You're going to get potentially 3 players at least, 2 from overseas, 1 from Major Junior, and you got a new acquisition today. So that's where we're at. Let's move on from all that, because I'm sure we repeated a lot of stuff that other shows have already said. So sorry to bore you. And if you stuck with us this long, thank you. Drop a "you're welcome" in the chat if you stuck with us this long. Let us know. Or in the comments, not the chat. What am I saying? We're not live. Oh, God.
Whoops. I hit the wrong
Let's
button.
talk some Griffins hockey here. We had 3 games since we last recorded. 2 in Manitoba, 1 in Chicago over the weekend. And when you look at the division as it stood before that weekend, you kind of hoped for some bigger games between those, bigger results from the Grand Rapids Griffins. I'm not going to bore you guys with going through the scoring for every one of these since they happened so long ago. I'll tell you the results, though. Tuesday, the school day game in Manitoba. Manitoba wins 5-2 in a game where the Griffins outshot them 37-23 and outplayed them for most of the game. Super frustrating one there. Griffins power play converted once with 6 opportunities. Penalty kill stopped 3 out of the 4 opportunities Manitoba had there. So an okay day for them. It was just a frustrating game. The only storyline out of this one, Shai William scoring his first pro goal, which we all kind of saw coming, and I'm really happy it did. It was an absolute blast, too. He had one opportunity, goes wide, they give it right back to him, winds up, and that goalie never saw it coming. So congrats to Shai getting his first one there. And of course, the other goal scorer in that one was Cross Hanas. So he continues to stay hot for the Griffins there. You go into Wednesday's game back at a normal time, not 11:30 in the morning. The Griffins win this one, 3-2 in overtime in a game where they got outshot 34-24. End up squeaking out an overtime win. Manitoba played really well in this one. The Griffins also played really well. It was a tight, actually kind of fun game to watch. It was frustrating, but fun at the same time. The Griffins blew a 2-1 lead, unfortunately letting Manitoba tie that one back on the power play there. It goes to the shootout. Nate Danielson, great shootout goal. Cross Hanas, a goal that just said, I am playing with all the confidence in the world right now. Walked up to the top of the faceoff circle and just snipes it past the goalie. No crazy dekes, no special moves. He just did his thing out there. And he also scored a goal in this game too. So back-to-back games with goals on a really nice point streak right now, or not point streak, but a set of points over the last 5-6 games. Just happy to see him playing with that confidence.
Little podcast bump.
Yeah, we'll call it the podcast bump all day long. I can't wait to see him again tomorrow. Oh, it's going to be funny. Griffins go into Chicago. This game I might expand a little bit more on since it happened recently here. And the Griffins lose this one 5-4. I was so frustrated. I was in Toledo during this game. Nick had to watch this game, unfortunately. I was scoreboard watching, making sure things at least looked decent for us. Griffins start off the game with a goal. Andre Becker, Cross Hanas assisting. Again, love to see that. Chicago responds. Tied after 1. Grand Rapids comes out in the first, 32 seconds in. Nate Danielson to a Misto assist on that one. 10 minutes later, Brogan Rafferty, Amadeus Lombardi, and Sheldon Dries assist on that.
That was a beautiful goal. I love that whole setup on that one.
It is Brogan Rafferty in the slot. Who would have thought, man? Who would have thought? What a shot it was, and just the setup overall was just chef's kiss. Love to see it. Chicago does respond with another goal, though, in the second there. And in the third period, Chicago goal. Austin Watson goal. Chicago goal immediately to win this in regulation. I saw Austin Watson tie that game. Sheldon Dries and Lombardi get the assist. I saw that update come up on my phone. I'm like, all right, it's going to overtime. We'll get a point. That's huge right now. And what was it, 10 seconds later, 15 seconds later, whatever? They let Chicago get back into this one. Griffins 0 for 3 on the power play. Penalty kill went 1 for 1. The Griffins outshoot Chicago 25-22. Jack Campbell stopped 17-22 in this one. Not his best night by any means.
No, not at all.
This one,
sorry, Jack.
You could ask Travis, his wife, Elaine, who a friend of the show was down there with us. Instantly angry, I was. Just instantly pissed. Watched Toledo play a great game. We'll talk about that in that show. Had a great day down there. And the Griffins ruined my entire day. So, thank you guys. I just don't know how you do that. Like, you get the lead, and we just can't hold a lead, which we'll talk about more after the ad break here. But how do you tie the game up like that and let them come back and immediately take the lead?
It was just... It was a weird game, bro. It was a weird game.
I mean, every game in Chicago this season has been weird. Every single one has been a weird game.
Like, the first period, they came out just freaking firing. You have shots right there?
13-5 in the first in favor of the Griffins.
The ice was tilted, and they get the first goal, and I'm like, here we go. And then they give it up right away, and I'm just like, what are we doing? And that was a bad goal. Jack fell behind the goal, and they pretty much empty net goal. It just fell up, and I'm just like, and then they score again, right? We score to take the lead, and then I'm like, okay, so we get some momentum. It was Nate's, right?
Yep.
And beautiful goal on that end, and I'm like, Nate's been heating up. This is fantastic. And then I think second period.
Then Brogan has that goal.
Ammo does a fantastic job in the corner, board battle, gets that puck, picks the guy's pocket, gets it over to Brogan, and Brogan shoots it, right, wires it in, and I'm just like, okay, like we get a little bit of momentum, and then literally like right after, we give it back. And then I'm like, we're going into the third, and I'm like, all right, I don't even want to watch this game anymore because it's just the way it happened. There was a huge momentum shift in the second period, and I was like, this just isn't going to be our night. And then they scored 2, and I'm like, this is going to be tough. And then for Watson to tie it, everybody was like freaking out. Everybody's celebrating. I'm like, yes, like we might actually be able to get this game in an overtime and maybe sneak one out at this point. And 2-0 pinched a little bit too far in, 2-on-1 the other end, and I'm just like, what? I hadn't even finished uploading the Watson goal, and then that they scored. I'm just like, wow. I literally threw my iPad. I was just like screaming and yelling, and Maria's yelling like, what's going on? I'm like, they literally just blew it. Because I thought this game, they started out so well, and I'm like, all right, like they're going to get their crap together here. And they showed what they've been doing.
Yeah, I mean, so it's crazy when you think about having these starts, these good starts that they just can't hold this lead. And like I said, we're going to talk about that more. But again, the positives in this one, Nate, his goal, out of his last 11 games, he's only had 3 games without a point.
Yeah, he's
Super positive. He's 4th in the team in scoring now. Like everything that people were concerned they weren't seeing, he is showing it, and he's been playing extremely well. Ammo, 2-assist game in this one. Austin Watson finding the back of the net again. It feels like it's been a minute. Like Brogan Rafferty getting a goal. That's huge. Like that's just stuff you want to see consistently happen, but you've also got to be able to hold the dang lead, which, Anyways, before I get into the topics I have set for the ad break, let's move to that ad break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the good, bad, and the ugly from this last week, our 3 stars of the week, a division update for everyone, the division standings, I should say, and probably a little bit more. Who knows? But first, quick ad.
This NHL season has been as predictable as a puck rolling on its edge. No one knows where it's going, but that just means there's time for your favorite team to figure things out. And games left for you to get in the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. It's super easy for first-timers to get started. Try betting on something simple like picking a team to win. Go to the DraftKings Sportsbook app, select your team, and place your first bet. And if you're new to DraftKings, listen up. New customers bet $5 to get $150 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code THPN. That's code THPN for new customers to get $150 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 and over. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/ice.
And welcome back. All right, like I said, we're going to talk about the good, bad, and the ugly for this last week because it's the best way to try to summarize all this with it being kind of old news, but also it's really important topics that we feel we need to talk about with this team. So we'll start with the good, right? Cross Hanas right now, like we mentioned, playing with the confidence that I feel we saw him playing with his rookie year before his injury. Like he looks like the prospect that we all thought he was going to be. And yes, we joke about it being a podcast bump because a lot of it has happened since he came on the show. And we like to make that joke with a lot of things that seem to happen after you come on this show. That's an open invite to all the players in this organization. Get on here if you're in a slump and maybe it'll turn around. Who knows? But at the same time, this is such a positive thing for the Griffins right now because even during this slump that they're in, he's suddenly playing at that high level. And if that can continue consistently and the team can turn things around, that's a huge boost. I mean, you're looking at 4 points in the past 6 games. That's 3 goals and an assist, plus a shootout goal in there. And there was a waved off goal that I thought should have been waved off in Manitoba. So he could have had another goal in there. Like he is the Cross Hanas I remember his rookie year right now.
The weird thing too. So yeah, I mean, Cross is playing fantastic. I'm loving this production from him. It was funny because it was right after he was on the show. And right after we had Jalen on the show, he got that game-winning overtime goal too. So,
Yeah.
I mean,
It's a kind of a trend at this point.
yeah, I can't remember and even even after we had Ammo on, he went off for a crazy amount of points too. So
We can just take credit for this whole season because he was on in the off season.
yeah, exactly. So
It's all us. It's not
um,
Ammo. It's all us. Oh, he's gonna kill us.
I know the list is I know the list is out there too for the next couple guys to come on. So maybe we try to find that guy that's in kind of a slump right now and see if we can get him out of that.
Yeah.
But I'm
Anyways.
I'm happy to see him up there producing, putting up points. I was able to just say hi to him yesterday while he was at the Subaru event, and I'm just happy. I mean, I'm glad you're gonna probably be able to see him tomorrow in the locker room tomorrow post game. But happy that he's producing. Happy he's putting points. We joked that Ammo needed to come back to get him going, and actually, it's the line that he's on. He's on with Becker and Gettinger the last 3 games. So I don't. It's a weird kind of chemistry there with him and Becker. Maybe it's getting him up there as Becker's creating some space or Gettinger's using the body to create some space to get him. Super tough for me to tell you what he's doing, how he's doing it well.
With how little you've watched.
Me
so.
sleeping, being passed out last week. But happy to just see the points up there. And I'm hoping that this continues and you know he gets a little bit more ice time and maybe he does move up that next line. I don't know. But just happy to see him be putting up points. And I know right after he was on, he sat out the 1 game for an injury. Injury related. Was it 1 or 2 games?
It was 1 or 2. I don't remember specifically. It might have been 2. But he
maybe,
came right back in like a new player.
Yeah, he went
like the old player.
He went and played in Dallas, which is where he's like in the Texas, back down in Texas, which is where he's from. So maybe he had some home cooking, and that helped him as well. And we can't take all the credit for being on the show, but maybe that little family time and a little bit of home cooking, you know, gave him a little bit of jump for this. And I don't know how many more times we played Texas, but
right.
Hopefully we see this continuing. So
I think it comes along the lines of during this slump, the Griffins coaching staff's obviously trying to find something that works, right? And he's been trusted with some more minutes, been trusted in other opportunities, and clearly Dan Watson went with the hot hand in that shootout, and I'm glad he did because that's what sealed the deal there. Maybe it's just a little more trust that they're giving him, and it's boosting his confidence overall, but again, to be playing like he was in his rookie year, I joked after he came on the show, and I'm like, if he can be a half a point per game player for the rest of the season, that's a massive boost in the bottom 6 for the Griffins. And here he is being more than that since then. So yay. I mean, is it sustainable? Who knows? And you hope it is. But at this point, you got to think he's going to earn that extra ice time out there. He might earn that jump in the lineup, or you don't break it up because that line of Gettinger, Becker, and Cross seems to be working. You know, you had Becker put up some more points this weekend. He's starting to produce more and more.
Yeah.
He's at 13 points now in the 44 games that he's played with the team. And I know to some people it doesn't sound like a lot, but a lot of those have come very recently, which is a really positive thing to see for him. His confidence is going up, which brought me to my next segment of the good here is just the kids are good right now. The kids are all playing good. Mays was playing great before his call up and injury there. Ammo, we talk about him every episode at this point. He's consistently putting up points. Like we mentioned earlier, Nate, you know, the last 11 games, only gone 3 of those games without a point, and continues to be defensively sound like he has been all season, but now he's starting to shoot the puck more. There's confidence when it comes with that. Shai Williams continuing to just impress in his rookie year, 20 points in the 53 games, 19 of those are assists. But he's 8th on the team in scoring now. So the kids are well.
Wait,
and that doesn't even...
Who's 8th on the team in scoring?
Shai.
Just in points.
Just in points, yeah,
Okay.
scoring.
I was
Overall.
like,
Not
he
goals,
only
not
had 1
assists,
goal.
scoring.
We're not that
No.
bad.
No, scoring overall. Jeez. And that doesn't even bring up, Tuomisto. He's got 22 points and 2 goals too. He's got 24 points in the 52 games he's played this season. You look at the score, like you look at the actual point breakdown for the Griffins, and it is very veteran heavy at the top for the top 3. And then you got Nate and then Dries. And then it's just the kids. They're kind of the rest of the way down. And that's a really, really positive thing to see as an organization overall.
Yeah, I mean, we've harped on the kids a lot, to be honest, if you've been listening.
Well, when half your
because-
roster's the kids, it's easy
Right.
to do. But
and I think that's where we struggle. And it's like, when the bottom 6 is mostly the kids, it's 1 or 2 years is what Travis had pointed out. And it's tough, and you kind of hit that wall halfway through the season. And I think maybe that's what's happening. But when you get all the lines running, like the other night when Becker scored, I'm like, okay, so we've got third line scoring. Like, this is going to be good. And then you get, a Nate Danielson goal. So you get a top line, and then you get ammo going as well. And it's like, okay, so we're getting points from other places. Like, that's what you need to see. You need to see points from everywhere. You can't just be top heavy. And which, unfortunately, this is how the team was constructed this year. And it's only going to go as far as these kids can elevate their game to the top. And you'll see this pay off, not this year. I think a lot of it will be next year when, you get Becker, and I believe, and Seeger back again for next year, and then another year for Deuce, and then another year for Johannes. So, you get those guys. I was going to say Ganger, but Ganger's he's a veteran. So,
Yeah.
just reading off these bottom six lines. So, that I think in the long term, like short term, yes, we're frustrated because we saw a lot of success last year. We were hoping to go further in the playoffs last year, and we got stopped by Milwaukee, who's very good. And then this year, we're a little frustrated just because we're so bottom heavy with the kids. But I think next year, when you see that, then be able to take that next step, I think that's where it's going to pay off. Like, we're going to hurt this year a little bit, but next year it'll pay off. And I think that's kind of the mindset we have to kind of go into with next year.
I agree. And I've got to paint this picture for the Red Wings fans that maybe listen to us just to get the Griffins updates and don't watch a lot of AHL. The recipe for success in the AHL to win Calder Cups usually isn't a team full of kids. It's not a team full of rookies. It's usually 1, 2, or 3 good prospects, maybe 2 more younger guys, and a bunch of good veterans. That's kind of the recipe for success. Look at Hershey the past few years. It's not like there's a million prospects on that team lighting it up for them to go win back-to-back cups like that. So the odds were kind of stacked against Grand Rapids from the start. When you look at the team, I think at the beginning of the season had 12 or 13 prospects of the Detroit Red Wings on the team at the time. And when I say the odds are stacked against us and you give me the weird look, like, yes, you expect these guys to go out and perform, especially after last season. But that's, again, usually not the recipe for success. So to see the slump and what they're going through right now isn't mind-boggling as much as you might think it is. Yes, it's frustrating because you know that all these guys can play better and they can get better results than this. We saw it last year. But at the same time, this isn't shocking. What you got to look forward to is when they do turn it around, what can they do with that? Because it's not an if they're going to turn it around. They're going to turn it around. You see glimmers of more and more positives every game, especially one of the biggest problems for the longest time was goal scoring just being non-existent. At least they are putting pucks on net and finding the back of the net. And how many games have they outshot their opponent that we're losing still after all the games that we won at the beginning of the season where we were barely, getting 20 shots on the board? It's probably just karma coming back to bite us for actually winning a bunch of games at the beginning of the year we shouldn't have won. But at the same time, they can turn it around. And when they do, what will they do with it? That's the exciting part when you do think of the prospect of who you're going to add. Yes, that's more kids as well. Again, that's not the recipe for success in the American Hockey League. But at the same time, the Red Wings want this team to be competitive. They've said it before and they'll say it again. They want them to be competitive, but also, as Steve Yzerman said in his press conference after the trade deadline, the American League's team job is to be there to support the NHL club. And yes, they understand that's going to hurt the AHL club. That's just kind of how it works. But at the same time, it's how a team can come together and how well they're coached and how well they gel together to be able to pull themselves out of a slump and still get in. Because at least in the AHL, as we've joked about a million times in this show, everybody gets in. It feels like everybody makes the playoffs because 5 teams in this division do make the playoffs. Not that I count the first round of the playoffs as a playoff round because it's basically a best of 3 play-in series. But at the same time, you just got to get in. And once you get in, it's up to what they do at that point. And let's be real, if the kids can keep producing like this, then the veterans can kind of figure it out because let's be real, their performance has kind of been disappointing when you look at some of the stats. I won't go into each one and call out each guy specifically. They know who they are, and they're frustrated too.
You don't want to do that?
No, some of them terrify me. At the same time, if the veterans figure it out and the kids can keep producing, that is a recipe for success in any league. whether it's the American League, NHL, or not. If the whole team's firing on all cylinders, they'll be good. It's just they all got to get there. You can't have one game where the veterans score and your top line scores and nobody else does. It's got to come from everybody. And we're seeing the third line start to roll a little bit. The first line's been rolling since Ammo came back. The second line's showing signs of life, at least on Nate Danielson's side as well, especially. The fourth line's been a mismatch of players with call-ups and everything else going on. So when that line starts to gel, and three of those guys have all kind of played with each other here and there throughout the season. You know, Seager's been a staple of that line all season. Hunter has been in Toledo. He's been here. Bantle, as it stands right now, been in Toledo, been here. They all know how to score. It's just they got to get the chemistry back going. And I have a feeling over these next couple of games, if that fourth line stays that way, you might see a fourth line goal or two, because Carson Bantle likes to be a power forward and just crash the net and score goals. If you're not familiar with Toledo Walleye hockey, just look it up and see how many freaking goals the guy has this season down there and how he scores them. So I still have hope. It's not like the season's over. I'm not a Red Wings fan right now. They feel like the season's over, and it probably is. But at the same time, the Griffin season's not over. They're going to make the playoffs still. It's just how deep will they go? I can't confidently answer that right now until we see things turn around. This was supposed to be the good segment, and it turned negative real quick.
It went right into the bad segment.
It kind of did, but again, we will move on from that. Bad, only winning one of the last 3 games. It's bad. These are games the Manitoba games, you thought they could win both of those. I'm glad they won one of them, but you kind of needed to win both.
So yeah, 1 win in the last 3 games. Not great. They keep telling us that they're going to turn the season around, that they believe in this team, they believe, and they have it in this team to do it. And we just haven't been able to see a full 60 minutes. It seems like what's going on in Detroit is kind of bled through to our end as well, of giving up leads and crazy out shooting, but not able to finish the puck, finish the play. And a lot of 2-on-1 breakaways the other end. I mean, that's all going to be on the bad side, and I think that's where we end up. I want to throw something else in the bad as well. Is I just think like our goaltending on Saturday just was not great.
Yeah, Jack did not have his best game by any means. Goaltending's been kind of shaky down here.
Shaky.
I'm not going to lie to the fans; it's been shaky.
I've watched him. There's some games that the team should have played better in front of him, and he gave the team a chance to win. And then there's games like Saturday where it's just like, what are you doing? I was really hoping that this Husso being shipped out was going to give him more time and more practice and more reps and more confidence moving forward, that this was the goalie we were moving forward with. And to me and others, I don't have the confidence with him in the net back there. It makes me very nervous.
Yeah, and it sucks because we like Jack, and I don't like to see
great person.
But at the same time, yeah, you don't like to see that confidence kind of be rattled the way it is right now, and it just kind of feels like that's the way the whole team is right now. Yes, they all say there's belief, and I know they're not going to come out to the fans and go, yeah, we don't believe, we're struggling. But frustration's crept in at this point. You saw it at the end of the Manitoba loss on the school day game. There was scrums. There was, Mays laid a massive hit in like the last 3 seconds of the game too. But you saw these scrums. You saw frustrations. You saw dumb penalties being taken. Like, the frustrations are there. It's how quickly can they get it under control and just find their game again and find the way they are as a group. Because 3-5, 1-1 in your past 10, you're the coldest team in the Central Division at this point, in a division that gets tighter and tighter every day. We say, Manitoba and Iowa, yeah, they're at the bottom, but they're 10 points out of that last play-in spot right now, technically, that 5th place spot, and 16 games remaining. So that's, you got to get good, and you got to get good quick here, and this upcoming stretch is their opportunity to do it. They have a lot of games at home, which also terrifies me, because at home, they haven't been great.
They've been bad.
So it's been kind of awful. So hopefully you can imagine that just gets turned around, and we'll see. Sometimes adding a body to the lineup can spark things, right? You do have a new acquisition there on the blue line, and maybe that changes some things. Who knows? But yeah, losing these games this week, It was bad. And that's why it goes in the bad segment. Now let's talk about the ugly, because there's a couple things. And Nick, you pointed out a stat to us the other day that is just ugly.
Yeah, the one regulation win in the last, I think it's up to 16 games now, 17 games. Yeah, don't quote me on it, but it's right there. uh, when I sent it, it was 15. So, and I think they've played 3 games since then. So maybe 1 in 18.
Ouch.
That
hurts. That sucks. That's bad. That's ugly. That's kind of everything about it. And it kind of goes along with the other thing I had noted down for this segment. It's they're blowing leads like they're getting paid to do it. It's like it's their job. We can't hold a lead as a team, and I do not understand why. But I just don't understand it. Like how they have the ability to get the lead and they just can't hold it. I don't. You would expect us to have an answer because we watch every game and analyze the play and try to make sense of everything that's happening. There's so many games that they've been playing lately where they're outplaying the other team, and I'm sick of using the statement that we ran into a hot goalie. Like I'm just annoyed using it. I can't use that anymore. You got to figure out how to be hot goalies. You really do. And somehow we've let Jesper Wallstedt revitalize his AHL season so far, and he's played his best hockey against us. Manitoba's goalie stole that game in the school day game. Absolutely stole it from us.
Oh, yeah.
They're outplaying other teams, but even when they get the lead in those games where they do beat the hot goalie, they can't maintain it. And I don't know if it's complacency. I don't know if it's just dumb mistakes. Like if you're worried about running up the score on teams and what their response might be the next night, who cares anymore? Run them up. Fill them in the next game. Who cares? You got to run them up.
Yeah.
Just play with that confidence. Go out there and play like they did when, Nate gets that goal Saturday, then Brogan gets that, and don't sit back on your heels and let Chicago claw back in. Every team, when they came to play this team at the beginning of the season, when they were top of the division, hottest team almost in the league, they were all bringing their A game every night, treating it as every game looked like a playoff game. Did that just wear us out? I don't know. But you knew how to play like that before, not complacent at all. And now, is it complacency? I don't know. I don't have an answer, folks. I'm at a loss for words. On a podcast, that's not good.
Good thing you don't get paid. The stat that they have on here too is like if they reach 3 goals, if they're able to score at least 3 goals, they're 24-2. That's insane. 24-2.
We have 29 wins in the season, so think about that.
If they fail to reach 3 goals, they're 5-20, 4-1.
Doesn't Detroit have that same kind of stat going with Todd McClellan right now too?
Something like that. So, what they need to do, they need to score. They got to get a lead, and usually if they're leading in the first period, they were like 10-0-1 or something, 10-1-0 or something like that. Literally just a few games ago, I pulled this stat, so it hadn't changed that much. And so that's the thing, is like if they're leading at the end of the first and leading at the end of the second, it's just like the first period, the first 20 minutes, they play fantastic. And then it's just like they gradually stop playing. It's so weird. They'll outshoot the opponent the first period and it's like they get discouraged or they get deflated or a goal of momentum shifts back. And I think a lot of it goes back to our special teams, which is also ugly. Because special teams is a momentum changer. And if they can score on the power play, then that's just going to give them momentum. And if they can kill the penalty kill, that gives them momentum as well. And I heard it on the Wings podcast the other day, is like if they could be a little bit more physical, if they know that they can, if they can afford to take the penalties, right? If they can afford to kill the penalty, they can afford to be a little bit more tougher. They can push the buttons a little bit more. But I just want to see more heart, I guess, from these guys. I want to see more give a damn, more. The words always compete, right? But I don't want to use
Ben
that
Simon
word.
once said give a shit too. So
yeah,
we'll give him that one right now.
I know they do. I know they care. But we need to see more of it on the ice for a full 60 minutes. I think that's the problem that we're seeing, is it's a lapse here, a lapse there. It's a full 60-minute game. We need to see full everybody, every shift just going at it hard. Like, I don't know if this team is just it's just deflating. It brings me back to the Ben Simon era, to be honest.
Oof.
Maybe I went
That's
too
a
far.
statement.
Maybe I went too far.
Maybe you did. I don't
Maybe I
know.
went too far.
But at the same time, there's a key point that you said during all that I want to touch on. It is the power play thing where, you know, if you can afford to take the penalties, you play a little bit more aggressive, right? That's what other teams are doing against us because they know that our power play is going to go out there. They're either going to get a shorthanded goal against us, which we've seen a couple times recently, or the power play is just not going to convert. The Griffins have the 28th best power play in the league right now out of 32 teams, for those that don't know. 28th in the league. That's in front of Hartford, who we play tomorrow, Syracuse, Bakersfield, and Iowa. Iowa's still at the bottom, but they're at 13.3%. We're at 15.8%. We're not far away from them. And then on the flip side of things, when you talk about the penalty kill has been decent lately. Like, I'm not going to dog on the penalty kill. It's the 11th best penalty kill in the league. Like, so wait, can we afford to play more aggressive?
I would
kill
say
it
so,
off?
because the problem here is when I was looking at penalty minutes for the Central Division, we are one of the lowest amount of teams that take penalties, which, yes, you want your teams to be disciplined, but we shouldn't be like, we do need to play a little bit more rough. We need a little bit more physical and a little bit more tougher, I feel.
That was the team's identity for the first quarter of the season.
Yeah.
Dan Watson said it in that coach's talk with season ticket members. He wanted the guys fighting more. He wanted more aggression. He wanted them to play that physical play. And then it just vanished out of thin air. We don't see it. Like, not that I expect Dominic Shine to drop the gloves.
Well, you can't use in Detroit.
Exactly. But his first game in Detroit, he did it this past week. And I'm like, okay, well, he still got it in there, or he was just doing whatever it takes to stay in Detroit. You know, things are different in each league. But at the same time, the guys can do it. We know one of the biggest guys that can do it on the team really can't do it, or he's going to be suspended for a game, and that's Austin Watson, which that suspension looming over his head, I think it's dulled the physicality there. He still plays a rough and tough game. Don't get me wrong, because he scares the crap out of me anytime I see him. Good Lord. Actually, he's just a big teddy bear off the ice. But at the same time, when he's out there, he still plays physical, but no one has to worry about him dropping the gloves, which let's be real, I'm disappointed that we didn't see an Austin Watson and Turcotte fight in Chicago, because that would have just fed families for a while, because Turcotte's an animal when it comes to fighting. Those two would have been all-time hockey fight potential right there, honestly. But they can play physical. We saw it for a quarter of the season where we were at the top of the division just running away with things. They were playing physical every night, throwing big hits, dropping the gloves, playing to their identity, and that identity disappeared so quickly on this team, and I do not understand why. And it's frustrating.
I don't feel like we're getting bullied in games either, but we're not being the aggressor. We're not being the bully, and I think we just kind of need to get that back.
I don't know if I agree with you or not on that.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm on to something or not, but you disagree.
I'm saying I don't know if I agree with you that we're not getting bullied in some of these games.
Oh, maybe.
I can't say that we are, but I can't say that we aren't. Let's just say
50-50.
I'll be 50-50 on that. It just sucks, man, because the other stat that's fallen apart over this stretch, over whatever we want to call this, since January,
3
essentially.
months?
Yeah. Is we were one of the top, if not the top, goals against average teams in the American Hockey League. We allowed very few goals against. Our goal differential is now negative. We have 160 goals scored and 161 against.
Wow.
That fell apart very quickly. And obviously, when you're losing games, of course, more goals are being scored against you. Everyone's like, duh, dummy. That's an obvious stat there.
But we're getting blown out by Manitoba, 5-2 games. Like that.
So here's where the stat gets weird, though. Because remember me saying, like, we were at the top, right?
Yeah.
We're second in the division for goals against. Second least in the division for goals against. When you look at the league, 11th. We're still pretty good at that. But we're still losing games left and right now. Goals scored. I got to scroll a little ways. Sorry, 24th in the league.
Out of 32.
Out of 32. And in the division, which is important because after tomorrow, there's only one more out of division game left this season, and it's against the struggling Cleveland Monsters. That's a whole nother story for another time because they are, they're basically going through the same thing we are. It's really weird. But in the division, 4th in the division for goals scored, actually tied for 5th or 4th with Rockford, which we're about to see a whole hell of a lot of them.
Yeah.
So I don't, like, if you're going by stats, the answer is not there. The answer is the on the ice play, and I think you hit it spot on when you said they just need to play with more heart. We know they care. I just don't think it reflects in a full 60 minutes on the ice.
They need to just play fucking hockey. It's maybe they're thinking too much. I don't know. They
can't be overthinkers like us. That's just a disaster waiting to happen.
I don't overthink.
Anyways, before this becomes personal attacks on Nick, that's where I want to leave the ugly because honestly, I don't have answers for it. And I hope next show I can come back with more answers, with one getting to see the guys play in person again for a couple games this week, which I'm super excited about. You got them at home tomorrow, like I said, against Hartford, one of the 2 remaining out of division games left this season. And then I guess the real test of where we're at comes Friday when Milwaukee comes to town.
Oh,
That's a big test. But luckily, it's a specialty jersey night too, and we tend to play pretty decent in those because it is the purple game that night. So it's a fan favorite every year. Always goes, all the proceeds obviously go to good cause too, with cancer research there. But at the same time, you got that, and then my least favorite part of the Griffin schedule kicks off, where it's 3 games in a row against the Rockford Ice Hogs, and one of those is Saturday on the road in Rockford. And then you have them back home for a back-to-back the following weekend. This stretch is going to get weird, to say the least. Because we play Rockford 7 more times still. We play Texas, I think, 3 or 2. Milwaukee once or twice. Chicago, I think we've got 1 more game against them. Manitoba, we're done with. Iowa, I believe we're done with. We might have 1 more. I don't have the full schedule in front of me. Sorry. I know I broke this down on Twitter the other night too. I'm not going to go find it. But this stretch is tough. The season and where we ended in the division this year is going to come down to 7 games against the Rockford Ice Hogs. Those games are monumentally important for where the team ends up. Because mind you, your quick division update, Rockford is in 5th in the division. They currently hold the last playoff spot in this division at 54 points. Chicago's ahead of them at 61. You have Grand Rapids at 64 points in 3rd. Texas at 67 points. Milwaukee, 69 points, leading the division.
Nice.
There you go. Bottom of the division, like I alluded to earlier, Iowa, Manitoba currently tied for the 6th or last place spot, however you want to look at it, with 44 points. That is your Central Division as it stands right now.
So, like, you just went over the schedule. All of these guys in the Central Division is all of, like, basically 18 of our next 20 games that are left, right? And it's going to be the most important to go in there and win these in regulation. Don't give up points. Win the 2 points, and keep stacking to get to the top. I mean, it's just, this is where this is the season. At this point, each game is a playoff game, is how I feel that they have to go out and play it. You guys made fun of me 2 weeks, a month ago? It's probably about a month ago right now that I hit the panic button, and they haven't done anything to show for it.
Not wrong. I can't disagree with you on that. I'll never say you're right. You know that. I don't have that bone in my body, but
I think they've won 2 games since I've hit the panic button.
Okay. All right. Rub it in more. Why don't you? It already stings enough. God.
So
the nice thing. Oh, go ahead.
This is what's going to separate the team. These last 20, this last 3rd, 4th, whatever you want to call it, last portion of the season. Where are you? Who are you? What are you going to do? This is like the last week of my job. It's like, of the month. It's like, do you got it or not? Gotta put up some numbers.
Gotta put up some numbers. Like you alluded to, the Griffins, they don't have 20 games left. They have 15 left.
So even less.
And the AHL
Oh, God.
puts out their playoff primer, which is always a nice little update. Gives you an idea where things are at right now for every team in the league. The magic number for the Grand Rapids Griffins to clinch a playoff spot right now is 15 points within these last 15 games.
So they got to win 7 of the last 15.
Correct.
That's a tough stretch right there, based off of what
7 games against Rockford can change where you end up. That's just to make it in. We're literally talking making it in at that point, right?
That's
Which, again, the AHL, they should make it in.
I can't wait for that to get clipped later when they don't.
Yeah, right?
Everybody
To clinch the
gets
division,
in.
to clinch the division, they would need 40 points.
Win out. We need a 20-game win streak, point streak.
Clinch the league, you need 48.
Yeah, that's not gonna happen.
Yeah, I know.
You don't want you don't want to win the league anyways.
No.
Like in the regular season.
Yeah, no. That's just a recipe for disaster. That's a curse every year. We all know that. That magic number shouldn't scare me, but it scares me. Again,
you should feel scared.
Again, I want to be in
It's
that
real.
safe spot, right? You want to be in the safe spot where you're not playing the play-in game. And to do that, you've got to be first, second, or third in the division. We're in third right now. I am over the moon happy to finish the season in third. With the way things have gone, finish the season in third, get in the dance, skip the play-in round, go play playoff hockey. Because no matter what you do to prepare, playoff hockey is different than regular season hockey. Maybe this team's built for playoff hockey. Who knows? We don't know. Hey, the fighting suspension thing resets. It's only regular season. That's why I say that.
I just
We
want
get Austin Watson back dropping gloves.
Just go
Well,
out.
he gets it out of his system, but if he does it again, he's suspended for another game. It's not really getting it out of his system. The way that rule works, he does it one more time, he gets suspended for 1. He does it again, he gets suspended for 1. Once he hits 14, it becomes an automatic 2-game suspension. And then I think 15 or 16 becomes a 3-game suspension. I don't have the rule in front of me. I just memorized the first part because I didn't think he'd get past that point.
Yeah, you probably won't.
Not saying that Austin Watson being able to fight is going to change the scope of being a playoff team, but at the same time, just get in the dance and don't play in the play-in round. That will make me happy.
I hope there's just a brawl this weekend. Just everybody
I'd
reset,
love it.
get it all out. Let's, and then let's focus on some hockey. Let's play some fucking hockey.
Just remember, there's warm-up brawls and game brawls, and we think the distinction is important.
Yeah.
You're welcome for that. That's all I have this week on Griffins hockey to update. I do want to throw one other Easter egg in there at the end here. Not Easter egg, but just a fun thing, because I've been watching a little bit or stat watching in the OHL a little bit, because the way the Wings are going, who knows what kind of pick they'll get. And, Michael Misa's in there, and you kind of look at Saginaw, right? And we didn't talk about it on the show, but Nick, Travis, and I pointed out to you this kid that just joined the Saginaw Spirit out of the KHL. He's a San Jose Sharks draft pick, unfortunately. And he's played 18 games with the Saginaw Spirit this season. How many points do you think he has on the season?
Probably 40.
44.
I know
17 goals, 27 assists, 44 points. That is
our Russian guy.
That is Igor Chernisov, for those who were wondering. I just saw this pop up one day. I think it was like his 3rd or 4th game in with Saginaw, and they had shared like in 3 or 4 games he had like 15 points. It's like, who's this kid? Unfortunately, folks, the Sharks got another good prospect. Let's just say that. But I just wanted to bring that up because I saw it when we were in Toledo the other night. Travis was like, how's that kid doing? And I looked and about damn near fell out of my chair. 44 points in that many games is absurd, even in the OHL. That is absurd.
Are they back in? They weren't doing great last time I checked, but I haven't been following the O too much. I was supposed to go to the Flint versus Saginaw game, the last game of the season, which
he would have seen this kid in action. Then.
Yeah, I was kind of pumped, and then they changed it. And we're going this weekend instead, so I'm kind of disappointed.
So Saginaw does have a playoff spot clinched. They are 4th in the Western Conference right now. I believe it's 7 or 8 teams from each conference go. Flint is in 6th. They're technically, I believe, still in a spot. Someone's going to probably correct me if I'm wrong. I know nothing about major junior hockey besides what we talk about when we talk about it. London is kind of run away with it. The funniest part when I look at
I think 7 get in. 8 get in. Sorry.
What's that? I'm sorry?
I think 7 get in.
7 get in. So Flint's still in a spot. Either way.
Yeah.
Like, London's running away with the Western Conference by like a decent margin there. And yeah,
London's always good.
They're always good. Windsor clinched the West Division, which is the division Flint and Saginaw are both in. Talk about the fall off of the Sioux Greyhounds, though. Oh, man. A team playing Saginaw in the conference final last year or whatever, or the division final, whatever game that we went to, that was an absolute blast. Yeah, that's fall off for them. Last in the division.
Well, they lost their defenseman, Andrew Gibson.
Hey, I guess he was a bigger piece of that team than we all thought, right?
I keep telling you guys this.
Oh, shut up. Oh, Jesus. Oh, God. All right. On that note, I'm calling end to the show here. I know this was a different format than usual. A lot to talk about this week, and we apologize for having such a long gap between Griffins updates. We don't like to keep that gap more than 7 days, and a nice 10 or 11-day gap by the time this gets posted isn't ideal for us. But again, we have day jobs. This doesn't pay us full time, clearly. So at the same time, you got to do what pays the bills first, unfortunately. But it was a pleasure to be able to sit down and chat. Nick, it's nice to have you back on the show. It's been like 3 episodes since you were here with you being sick. So it's good to have you back. And hopefully Trav's good enough to get back on a Toledo update here soon. Or if you think Nick gets lost when he hasn't watched a few Griffins games, wait till I force him through a Toledo episode where he's watched none of the games. That's just pure comedy. So stay tuned for that, because we'll have the Toledo Walleye update by the end of the week here. With that, we'll wrap this one up. Thank you all for tuning in. And of course, as always, thank you to the sponsors, DraftKings and Everything Hockey Clothing Company. Make sure when you're betting with DraftKings, use code THPN. And when you're at everythinghockey.com, picking up a new sweatshirt, new t-shirt, whatever new release they have, because they're always dropping new stuff, make sure you use code WEST. Saves a few bucks off your order, and of course, supports the show. But as always, without our Patreon subscribers, the show would not be possible. And we have to thank every single one of them right now. And those folks are... Nick's not ready.
No, not even close. I wanted to try to do it by memory, but I I feel like I would have gonna miss somebody, and I'm having trouble getting logged into Patreon tonight. So,
Do you need me to do it?
yeah, I tried to get in, and it brought me to a different page completely. But let's see if I can do it by memory.
Hold on.
See who I miss.
Go ahead.
All right, so here we go. Perfect. So we've got, no, I don't have it in front of me, but we're gonna guess it. Alan, Lori, Michael Asante, Claire Boughton, John in Florida, Elaine Shercliffe, Randy, and this one's an abbreviation one, and it's like good something something something.
Forgot Griffin.
Oh, Griffin.
And Derek.
And Derek Sleezer.
You tried, man. You tried to do it by memory. I'll give you props there. Well done.
Very good.
Put Nick on the spot. Tries to go from his memory. That's
I haven't done one in 3 episodes.
Yeah, I'm honestly impressed you got that many. So well done, sir. And thank you to all that have subscribed. If you haven't subscribed yet, head over to patreon.com/Hockeytown West Podcast. Check out the tiers there. They start at $1. They don't get more expensive than $5. We keep it as cheap as possible. We know things are expensive nowadays, but if you want to support the show a little extra, head over there and check it out. We post unedited episodes there, including all the chaos between Nick trying to find the list of names or deciding to do it by memory and everything else. There's always a good 10-minute shooting the shit conversation piece in the middle of the show where there's no ad, because the episodes that get posted there are ad-free as well. We post behind the scenes content. We post updates there on interviews coming up before we post them anywhere else. We'll do giveaways. I know Nick's going to drop a ticket giveaway for the Grand Rapids Griffins Wednesday game as soon as we're done recording this one here, and we'll have future giveaways on there as well. So make sure you head over and check it out if you haven't yet. And to those that have, again, thank you. But with that, we'll wrap this one up. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. And as always, go Griffins, go Walleye.
Love you. Bye.
I don't know if I've missed it or not.
Thank you for tuning in to the Hockeytown West podcast. Be sure to check us out on Twitter at HockeytownWPod, and your host, Nick at GR Hockey Guy, and Brandon at BrandonGR Hockey.